Now we're going to go to the labor market occupational exercise. For this exercise, you're going to go to the website www.btlmi.info. You can see on your screen that it should say Vermont Department of Labor up here in the top, and you'll also see Kevin's Corner and ELMI customer survey. This website is open to the public. Everything on this website is available to you at any time that you want to look at it. You're not required to go out here and do anything, but just know that all these articles and links are open to you, and there's some very interesting information here. For today's exercise, we are going to use just two of these tabs on the left. So over here in the left-hand panel, you're going to first use the Occupations tab. And then for part two of this exercise, you're going to come back and use this Business Finder tab. So we're going to start with the occupational exercise. You are going to look up for this exercise the most recent job title you held right before going on unemployment. You're going to click on this Occupations button, and then you're going to type in here in this search bar the job title. So let's say for today that we are going to be bookkeepers. So I'm just going to type bookkeeper in there, and then I'm going to hit search. Once you do that, you're going to get a list of occupations that are related to the keyword that you looked up. So here you will see 3 job titles that are similar to bookkeeping. You're going to look through your list, and you're going to choose the one that you think is going to be the best fit for the work you do. So let's look up bookkeeping. We click on that, it's going to open up all these details about bookkeeping and the industry in Vermont. So the first thing I want you to do is scroll down here to this little paragraph that says, what do they do? I want you to read the paragraph. If it is not a good fit for what you do, hit your back button and pick another job title off the list. You may not find a perfect fit, find a good fit. So for today's example, we're going to say that this is a good fit. Now you are going to be sent instructions, screenshots, worksheets, and the link to submit your information as you go through this exercise. I'm going to quickly walk you through the questions that we're going to ask you to look up. And then when you do this for yourself, you're going to have that information in front of you. So the first question on this exercise is going to be, what is your job title? So you can tell me in your own words. You can say I'm a bookkeeper, or you could say bookkeeping, accounting, and auditing clerks like they have listed on the website. Either way is fine. The second thing you are going to look up is this ONET code. So right underneath that job title, you're going to find the ONET code. It is always going to be 2 digits -4 digits .2 digits. And this just tells the federal government that we sent you to the right location. Once you have found those 2 pieces of information, we want you to scroll down and find the wage section. So you'll see here that we are looking at Vermont wages for the year 2020. If you have the option, I want you to change the area, hit this little drop down area and change the area. If you are in northern Vermont or southern Vermont or the Burlington area, I want you to choose those locations. If you don't have these choices and all you have is Vermont, then you're going to use that Vermont information. So in this example, I'm going to choose northern Vermont. And it will reset, so you have to scroll back down. So we're going to come back down here to the wage section. So this is going to tell us your prevailing wage. So remember a few minutes ago, you heard about the expected wages that you need to be willing to accept. So day 1 through week 5 of your unemployment, you need to be willing to accept a 10% cut in pay. The next 5 weeks, week 6 through 10, you need to be willing to accept a 20% cut in pay. And after week 10, you must be willing to accept prevailing wage, which means the average wage among people doing your job title in your region of Vermont. So we're going to compare you to people who do the same type of work in your local labor market. This is where you're going to find that information. So you're going to find us two pieces of information from this section. You're going to look up and find us the median wage. You're also going to find us the average wage. Those are going to be your prevailing wage numbers for your job at the 10-week mark. Now, the average wage means that we took everybody in your job title, added up all their wages, divided by how many people are in the group. That gives us the average. With the median wage, we take the same group of people. This time we line them up lowest wage to highest wage, and then we track back and find the middle number. So 50% of people make more than that number and 50% of people make less than that number. So that gives us a more true middle number. When you're asked to do your prevailing wage, it's going to be in this general area. So for a bookkeeper in northern Vermont, your prevailing wage is going to be between $20 and $21.50 an hour. And that's what you need to be willing to accept after 10 weeks of unemployment. The next piece of information we want you to find is going to be in this projected employment column. So again, we're going to ask you to change this location for your local region. So I'm going to switch it to northern Vermont, and then I'm going to scroll back down to that section. Now, what this tells us is, what does the Vermont Department of Labor believe is going to happen to your job title over the next 10-year period? So these numbers are a little out of date, but that's our most recent figure. So that's what we're going to use. And what we want you to find is the annual percentage of change. So we are projecting that bookkeepers are going to decrease by 0.6%. Now, does that mean bookkeepers are losing their jobs? Not necessarily. I mean, it's possible, but more likely the scenario is that they're not being called bookkeepers anymore. They're probably going into something like accounts payable or accounts receivable or payroll clerks. It's probably, if you looked up those other job titles, those are likely going up as much as this one's going down. So I don't know that I would get too worried about a 0.6% decrease. Then what we're going to have you do is read through the rest of these sections: knowledge, skills, abilities, education, just to review these things about your job. If you've been doing your job for any amount of time, you probably know most of this information. But go ahead and give it a look and see if you find anything that maybe you didn't know. So once you have reviewed that, the next question on the form says, based on what you know about your job, are you qualified to do this job, and what makes you qualified? So you might say, as a bookkeeper, you might say, I have 10 years experience and I'm certified bookkeeper. As a truck driver, you might say, I'm a licensed CDLA, I've got a safety record, I've been in the trucks for 20 years. You tell me what makes you qualified. The next thing on this question worksheet is going to be about your transferable skills. So transferable skills describe you as a worker and not the job you do. So transferable skills are not, I push a button and this happens. It's, I show up on time. I have integrity. I have attention to detail. I'm a great people person. I'm a good communicator. Those are your transferable skills. And it doesn't matter if you are sitting in the truck cab driving all day or if you're in an office. Those skills are still going to be true about you. Another thing to take note on your transferable skills do not have to come from a paid occupation. If you have raised a family or you do volunteer work with a community group, you have transferable skills from those places as well. The last thing you are going to do on this section, part 1 of this exercise, is go to the related occupations section. You will see a list of related occupations, which means these job titles would require a similar skill set to what you're currently doing. And you can maybe get into these jobs with little to no training. You may have already thought about these things. These may be things that, you know, are a little outside of the box for you. I want you to review your list and see if anything on that list is interesting to you. I want you to pick 2 and write them in on your form. Now, if there is nothing on this list that is of interest to you, I still want you to pick 2 and write them in on the form. You are not going to be required to job search in these categories, but if, for example, you might be interested in brokerage work, you could always click on that and then go look at the information for that job. You know, this is increasing, the wages are a little higher. Maybe it is something you would be interested in, but had never thought about before. That is part 1 of this labor market exercise. In part 2 of this exercise, we're going to come down here. We're going to use this business finder tool. You are now going to look up 2 companies that you may be interested in applying to. So you're going to click on Business Finder. The first thing I would recommend you do is change the county. So I'm going to change this for this example to Orleans County, but wherever you are close to, are looking for work, or willing to work, you're welcome to job search any place you're willing to drive to or move to. So I'm going to switch this to Orleans County, and then I'm going to type in here an employer name. So I'm going to type in Pike. I'm going to go look for work at Pike and type that in. I'm going to hit the search button. And this will find anything in Orleans County with Pike in the name. So it only finds this one. We're going to click on this employer name, open up the details. These details have been provided by the company. So even if you see something incorrect, we are not allowed to fix it. The company has to fix it themselves, or they have to let us know to fix it themselves. So whatever you see on the screen is what we want you to relay back to us. This will give you the company name, their location, their contact information, how many people work there, and it will also give you a map. So if you are interested in applying with them, you can click on the map and find out exactly where they are. So you can either go there and apply, or when you get an interview, you'll know right where to go. For this exercise, first thing you're going to do is tell us what is the company name. So you would just write Pike, Pike Industries, whatever you want to put there. The second question is, how many people work there? So in this case, you're going to look for the size here. It's always going to be at the bottom. This one is 1 to 4 employees. So it's always going to be a range. It might be 1 to 4. It might be 250 to 499. It might be 20 to 48. Whatever is there is what you're going to report back to us. The next question says, does this company have a website? So if you go under the contact information, the website is always going to be the last piece listed there. So in this case, do they have a website? You would say yes. It's a yes/no question. Then we want you to go to that website and see if you can job search directly on the page. So we're just going to click on Pike here. Now we're on their website. We're going to be looking for something that says employment opportunities or careers. So in this case, we are going to go to the Careers tab. So we're going to click there. And now it gives us a couple of options. So we want to see what jobs they have open. So we're going to go to Pike Career Opportunities, click there. And now we see a list of the job postings that they currently have. And they have quite a list of job opportunities right now. If you want to, you can narrow it down to just Vermont jobs. So you just put VT in there and hit the filter. Now you're looking at just Vermont jobs. We want you to review the list of jobs. You can click it and see if there's anything in the details that is of interest to you if you're curious. And then the last question, are there any jobs listed that you are interested in applying for? And what is the job title? If there's nothing on this company list that you're interested in, you can say no. It's always your choice if you want to apply or not to these companies. That is the end of the first employer. And all you would do is go back to the business finder again and type in your second employer. You put the keyword and search and do that section all over again.